Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I've got a fun one for you here today on the Cabral Concept. We're going to be going over the story of the immortal chicken heart. This story was done now over 100 years ago, or I should say this experiment was done by Dr. Alexis Carrel over 100 years ago. It started in 1912. It was done out of Rockefeller University. It's now Rockefeller University. And back then it was known as the Rockefeller Institute in New York City. Now it's become a famous university. Now, this wasn't done by any doctor, just kind of off the street, just trying to do some experiment on longevity, anti-aging, cell culture, regenerative medicine, etc. This was a Nobel Prize winning surgeon and biologist in the field of regenerative medicine, anti-aging, gerontology, and much more. Now, again, let's see, this was 1912. So we're going back, what, 112, 113 or so years ago? Pretty amazing. And this was an experiment that just went on for your typical 6 weeks, 8 weeks, maybe a 12-week experiment, which nowadays is kind of a long period of time. This went on for decades, 34 years to be precise. Actually, well beyond Dr. Carrel's, it's C-A-R-R-E-L's work on this experiment. So additional colleagues continued on the experiment. So what exactly was this? Why is it so fascinating? I wrote about this first in my book, The Rain Barrel Effect, and since then I've had so many people ask me about it, actually on podcasts that I've done on other people's shows, like, tell me about this immortal chicken heart. All right, so let's go over the full story, because I didn't go through the whole story, the full story in my book, The Rain Barrel Effect. I didn't even know that it would be as intriguing as, people have asked about, but it's intriguing to me, and so I love to be able to share about it. Here's the thing. Your typical chicken out in the wild lives about 5 to 10 years. If you bring it into captivity or, you bring it into your backyard, it might live 10 to 12 years. So this chicken heart, though, it lived 34 years. And actually, the only reason why the chicken heart or the cells of the chicken heart died was because they ended the experiment. They stopped doing the things to keep the heart alive. So let's look at this for a minute, because think about this. Like, the maximum longevity of a human is about 120 years. Again, people can argue back and forth, but about 120 years. That seems to be the maximum. But realistically, it's somewhere around 75 years old, because that's the average life of a human. So let's just say average life of a human, and that's not even like best case scenario. Let's just say 100 is best case scenario, and then 75 is like the chicken in the wild, right? Okay, so let's look at that. If we go 7 times, right? 3 to 7 times what a wild chicken lives is how long this chicken heart lived, or just to make it simpler, 3 times captivity. Okay, so for a human, let's go 3 times 100, that's easy, 300, right? Or even 3 times the lowest number, which is 75. So now we're at what, 225? 75 is 150, another 75 is 225. So now you're saying, okay, could we take a human and get them to live 225 years to 300 years to maybe 360 years, like kind of as that maximum, right? It's interesting to look at, and that's why this experiment sparked so much excitement. So I want to share with you exactly what they did in the lab in order to keep these heart cells beating and alive, okay? Because maybe then we can use this research 112 years later in order to improve overall health and longevity. Because remember, if these heart cells, this heart wasn't healthy, there's no way it could live this long. So what did they do? Well, they did 2 things. It's what I talk about, and again, in the Rain Barrel Effect, and that's why it's a little tongue-in-cheek for me, because they did 2 things. Because there's only 2 ways that humans become sick. And there's only 2 ways that humans become unwell. And that is through deficiencies and toxicities. And so you need to know what your deficiencies are, and you need to know what your toxicities are. So here's what they did in the lab to help this chicken heart live at least 3 times as long as it would even in the best of conditions, right? 7 times longer than the wild. Here's what they did. I'm going to give you exactly what they used. They fed this chicken heart, let's call them cells, tissue, a blood serum. What does that mean? It's what it would normally bathe in. right, the heart would bathe in blood. So they would use a chicken blood-based serum, which contains things such as normal growth factors and nutrients that the blood provides, maybe some iron, etc. They also gave it certain salts and electrolytes. And the reason they gave it salt and electrolytes was to actually help balance the pH of the tissues in the solution as well. And we know inside of the human body, we also need calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. We know that we need the predominance of that potassium inside of the cell for it to beat properly, or for it just to have normal, what's called osmosis. And I want to talk about that in 1 second. And we know that the predominance of the sodium is outside of the cell. So great, they gave it some electrolytes. The next thing they gave it, out of the 5 things total, was amino acids for protein. And that was in order to be able to continue to repair the cells as they normally would break down over time. Okay, so we need some protein. Then they gave it glucose, a form of carbohydrate, which is the predominant energy source for the cells, especially the heart cells. Then they gave it vitamins and minerals. So they used these vitamins and minerals, how you normally would get inside of your blood from foods or supplements that you take, that would then feed these living tissues. So now what do we have? Well, we basically have an electrolyte solution, calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, some other electrolytes as well, maybe like phosphorus, other things in there as well, good for the tissues. We have amino acids, which are the building block for all tissue that helps to rebuild it. Those are your proteins. Then we need a fuel source, the most abundant, easiest fuel source being carbohydrates or glucose. They gave it that. And then vitamins and minerals to make sure the cells could also produce their own energy, B vitamins, etc., to keep the whole organism going. So they fed it. That's the deficiencies, right? They help with the deficiencies. They fed it nutrients. But then they did one more thing. They cleaned the solution from that petri dish on what was either a daily or a weekly basis. Because all cells produce waste. They produce waste as just part of normal cellular metabolism. Take in food just like us, excrete waste. Just like the human body does, so do all the cells in your body. Remember, you are a macroorganism to all the microorganisms in your body. And we are a microorganism on this planet, right, to a larger macroorganism. And that's how we have to look at it. So in order to maximize lifespan of the immortal chicken heart, and by the way, the only reason this chicken heart died is because they ended the experiment. Not because those tissues died on their own, because the experiment was ended after 34 years. I mean, think about all the different PhDs, research scientists that moved through this experiment over the years to continue to keep this going. And then at some point, they're like, well, this thing's not going to die on its own. We're just going to end the experiment. So how I look at it is this. It's abundantly clear, and it's been abundantly clear in my practice since about 2010, that if you have any health issues, if you have any wellness issues, it's because you're missing certain nutrients. It could be calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium. Could be omega-3s. Could be the omega-9s we talked about yesterday. It could be proteins. It could be carbs. It could be anything, right? It could be all the different nutrients that our body needs. B vitamins, methyl factors, what else? Trimethylglycine, like all sorts of different things, right? So we can run labs, right? We can run something like the Big 5 or the starter kit in order to be able to figure out what you're missing. Okay, so that's your deficiencies. Then we replace those. Great. Now the body has the nutrients that it needs, and guess what? The body innately knows how to heal. But it needs one more step. It needs you to help with that waste. So drinking enough water or fluid per day. Sweating as many days a week as possible. Moving your body, which moves the lymphatic system. Doing things like a quarterly functional medicine detox. Doing a 12-hour to maybe 16-hour intermittent fast so that the body has time to process and remove before you start putting more in. These are all the different steps along the way, but this creates a healthy human, especially over time. So the way that we do that in our practice is actually fairly simple. We run the starter kit, which is all your vitamins and minerals, your gut health, your heavy metals, right? We do that, or the Big 5, which is a little bit more in depth. Then we give the body the nutrients it needs. But before we even do that, before we get the lab results back, we're doing a 21-day functional medicine detox. And that is helping to greatly remove the total toxic load in the body. So now it's finally being talked about. It wasn't 15 years ago, and it probably won't really reach its heyday and get the due it deserves, just like intestinal permeability, et cetera, for probably another 10 years. But don't wait another 10 years to start getting the results that you deserve. I've read about the rain barrel effect. I've talked about it over and over. It's guaranteed to work. It is the best place to get started. But run your labs first to get your baseline, then complete the 21-day detox. If you can't do 21 days, do the first 7 days, and then just continue with that days 3 through 7 meal plan for the rest of it, right? And just keep using the products that we know work. And then you transition then to a personalized plan once you get those labs back. That's the best of all worlds. That helps you to give your body the nutrients it needs and to remove the waste that continues. Now, it's not like it's just, bowel movement waste. It's the waste that builds up in our body from natural cellular metabolism and aging. We know this. It's one of the reasons why we know sauna works so well, why we know intermittent fasting works well. Well, your body can get even more help, especially by using something like the daily nutritional support on a daily basis. Why? Well, it gives you all the vitamins and minerals and electrolytes that your body needs, right? It's not rocket science, as they say, right? It's just like you have to give your body the nutrients it needs, enough water, fluid, sweating, movement to help it also then remove, right? Nutrients in, waste comes out. Give it a way to get rid of that waste, right? That's the absolute best way to do this. So I wanted to share that with you here today. The labs that we use, the starter kit, the daily nutritional support, or the daily activated multi, or any of those things, the big 5, you can find them all at stevencabral.com/shop. That takes you over to EqualLife. That's my virtual functional medicine integrative health practice. We work with now well over 250,000 people. Of course, we'd love to be able to help you as well. But regardless, I wanted to share this fun story with you because it really does go to show maybe there's more to this longevity. Maybe the body does know how to innately heal and continue to stay healthy and stay alive if we continue to clean the solution and replace those deficiencies. So it at least gives us something to talk about, debate about. I'd love to hear your comments. Feel free to leave those below. And again, for all the details on today's show, plus the big takeaways, head on over to stevencabral.com/2953. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything. Functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.